All right. Where are my astrology loving peeps at? This one's for you. And if you're like, I don't know, if you hear that someone's an astrologer or does tarot readings or does feng shui and you like want to walk away, I really do, please do me the massive favor of just listening to this, because we actually go in with a much more explanatory way of how do these things affect your life. So not in scary predictions, but just like in information that you can take action. And I'm all about arming you with the tools to be it till you see it. So I wanted to bring on my friend Kate Wind. She also has a podcast. You'll hear about it at the end, and have her explain how your signs can assist you in knowing what steps to take next and how to go through some things. And we also talked about the energy of your home. And my love is being it till you see it is not just about like consuming information and taking action and then going home. Your home is such an important space for being it till you see it. And so she goes into great detail, more than I've ever known, about feng shui. And so I'm really excited for you to hear all this and be armed with some information. And I really do hope that you take that and her be it action item steps, and use them. And then let us know how you use them. And then if you're at all intrigued, contact her. Find someone like her, because you're going to want this information in your life about who you are and what was going on when you were born to help you navigate what's going on next in your world. Right. So here's Kate Wind. Let's get going. I'm like giddy for you to hear all this information because it's a lot of fun for me.
Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started.
All right, Be It babes. I'm really excited because I know we met in person somewhere, and then we actually hung out. Oh, we met at a roller skating event, and then we hung out, just the four of us, actually, your partner, my husband, and I. And I really just think that you're the coolest woman. So y'all, I'm bringing on Kate Wind. That's who we have as a guest today because, well, I think we've all had questions about astrology and feng shui. And sometimes we say things like, damn, Mercury in retrograde. And like, what does that mean? And it's everything retrograde and Mercury's fault. Like maybe we're just blaming the wrong planet. Right. So I wanted to bring on Kate because I think in being it till you see it, there are some things we can dabble in the astrology world, in the feng shui world. And I know you're like, oh, Lesley, this is going to get woo woo. It's going to be a one woo, but it's going to be a hard woo. And I think Kate is going to just enlighten us in some ways that are going to make us go, oh, maybe I should be looking into astrology or feng shui. So Kate, can you tell everyone who you are and how you got to do what you're doing?
Absolutely. So first, thank you so much for having me on today. Second, I love that. It's not going to be woo-woo, just one big woo. But I appreciate you saying that because I'm an astrologer and a feng shui consultant. And I love to bring these tools to people in a very digestible manner. So often when you start talking about these things, people, they have two reactions when they meet me. One is, oh my gosh, I love everything that you do. Or the second one, they kind of almost back away, right? Or they just don't even respond to what I said I do. So how I got into it is I'm a second generation astrologer and tarot reader and feng shui consultant. And I was raised with the language. But it wasn't until 5 years ago that I had an aha moment and I decided I'm in the wrong industry. I can't continue doing the corporate grind like I've been doing, and I need to launch my own business.
So that's so interesting because you're second generation. And I think a lot of people can resonate with maybe resisting a journey that they were pretty much born for. Like, you said it, you're like, the language, your parents were speaking this all around you all the time. It was just kind of like how you grew up. Some kids grow up with their parents going to work 9 to 5 and you grew up with your parents reading tarot cards.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that is a great point. And I don't think at the time that I knew that I was going against it, but I also thought I want to prove to myself that I can go out there and do something on my own. And so I went to UNLV. I got my bachelor's degree in psychology. I knew I wanted to help people, and that ended me up in the spa industry. Right. And I was a spa director for 12 something years. And that definitely is a form of helping people. It's the therapy that happens to the body, the massages, the facials. But that wake up call, it was so intense. I was saying, I need to help people on a deeper level. And I think too, when we talk about that woo, when it comes to astrology and Feng Shui, like these are tools that we can use that are just as good as therapy.
Can we talk about how they're tools? Because I think that's where people, like you said it, some people are like, oh my God, I love that. I have all the decks. Here's the decks that I have. And they're like,
yep.
And then other people are like, okay, I'm going to just step over. Why do
Absolutely.
So can we talk about what these tools are just on a basic level? And then maybe we can find out, like, why do people want to like step away? Do they think you're a witch?
Yeah, sometimes, unfortunately. So, with the astrology, in order to be able to write a horoscope column in the back of Shape or Vanity, we had to boil astrology down to the 12 signs, which are sun signs, right? Just like me and you would say, okay, we're an Aquarius, or someone else is a Pisces. And sometimes that's hard to believe. How could we put all of people into 12 simple categories? And that sounds very unrealistic. And it's not to bash on sun sign astrology. It has its place, but I don't think a lot of people understand the depth of astrology. And that as an astrologer, I'm looking at all of your planets. I'm looking at what signs all of the planets sit in your chart. I'm looking at what houses they sit in. I'm looking at the aspects that they make to each other, how they communicate to each other. And I start telling you things about you based on your chart that some people sit back and say, I've been in therapy for 2 years and I haven't received this type of validation, right? They say they feel seen. They say, oh, you've put into words how I've felt my entire life.
Okay. This is brilliant, because this is why I want to bring you on. Cause I think in Being It Till We See It, we have to accept ourselves. And I think sometimes we think there's something wrong with us when actually what that thing is that everyone is going, why do they do it like that? That's literally your uniqueness. It's based on your birth chart, which is more than your sun sign. And it's like, if you kind of went in with that uniqueness, it probably would take you to where you want to go.
Yes. And so many people think astrology or tarot, for example, like, oh, I don't want you to tell me when I'm going to die. Okay, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not doing that. Okay.
Maybe that's why they're scared and walking away. They're like, oh my God, she knows the end.
Yes. Or they think I'm going to tell them something horrible. And I understand, readers have gotten a bad rep because clearly there are readers out there that like to talk about bad news, right? You have to find, just like a therapist, you have to find a reader that you feel comfortable with, that you resonate with their language. And I can guarantee you, I do not talk I don't talk about death. And if we talk about things that maybe aren't as fun to talk about, right? I give you very practical examples of how I've seen clients live through it. So you're not getting off the phone saying, I'm afraid to leave my house today.
Right.
That's not what it's about. That would be a complete disservice, I think, and very unethical as well, to do.
Yeah. I think that is, thank you for pointing that out. And I it's like anything. Because as a Pilates instructor, people are like, oh, I tried that once. It didn't work for me. It's like, well, you probably just had the wrong teacher for you, or you picked the wrong type of Pilates. Like there's not just one way of anything anywhere.
Correct.
So there's that. So that's a great tool for really figuring ourselves out, which I think is cool, and really helping us navigate steps we should take. That's kind of like what you do on that side. So Feng Shui, how is that a tool that people can use?
Okay. So for the Feng Shui, a lot of time people say, oh, yeah, I have a red door, or, oh, my bed faces a certain direction, right? And don't get me wrong, those are great, but Feng Shui is so much more than that. Okay. And if you've ever created a vision board, right, where you cut out the little magazine pieces and you put on some construction paper, that's telling me that you believe in the power of seeing something, putting it on your wall, seeing it every day, and that it's going to manifest. So how would we not operate if we believe in that our home is an extension of our energy, and what we put on our walls through artwork, through color, through placement is asking the universe for more of those things.
Cool. So that's like you're putting things in place around your home as not just as visual evidence, but also things that could open up what is to come, what you want to come in, what you want to bring into your life. So you could be putting things in your house in a way that is like blocking the things that you want versus like just making some changes. It's not just the red door.
Yes. And I can give some great examples because storytelling sometimes is the most fun. But even if you're listening, you're thinking, oh, I've never created a vision board because I don't believe in that. I want to give one other example. Okay.
Yeah.
If you've ever been on a diet and so you say, you know what? Okay. Starting Monday, I'm starting my diet. So over the weekend, you go through your pantry, you throw out all the candies, you hide the flour, whatever it is, you stock the fridge with fruits and vegetables, waters, whatever. You're changing your environment in order to get a result. And I think that's really what Feng Shui comes down to. We can sometimes become overwhelmed within ourselves. How do I make a change? Okay, well, change your environment. Sometimes it's not just the mindset. So I know I've read a very cute story about you where you manifested Brad, right?
Yeah.
With the 2 coffee cups.
Yeah.
Okay, so often I'm in someone's home and they have one reclining chair in the living room. So if anyone was to come over, where would they sit? Or I've been in people's homes where they only make one side of the bed. They only have one pillow, one nightstand. Okay, well, where would this other person belong in your life? To me, you're telling the universe, I like one person sleeping in this bed because it's not even made for 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Examples like that is what I consider the power of working with your home to create your reality.
So I love this because even for people who are trying to make room for something in goals, like in their business, or they want to have a new job or bring something in, if you don't create space in your calendar,
yes,
you're not going to be able to bring in that new side hustle, that thing that you want to do next. It's like, we think of Feng Shui as like these particular things. Like when I think of Feng Shui, I never will forget when my mom came to my first apartment. She's like, your toilet is in your relationships corner.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
And she's
That's
like,
very real.
She's like, but it's okay, because we put this thing over here. It's going to do this.
Yes.
But it's also just like setting yourself up, setting things up to bring in what you want more of, and just looking around to see what things are you actually not welcoming in by putting on. Like I remember when I first got my own place after I was homeless and single, I had wanted to create as much room as possible in my studio apartment, of course. So I pushed the bed up against the corner.
Ooh, okay.
So guess what, y'all? Let me just tell you, that lasted 2 weeks, because the moment someone to stay the night, I was like, how do we get out of bed to go to the bathroom? Like, what is happening here?
Yes. Well, so, I mean, so many things I want to say to that. Yes. Beds in the corners like that reminds me of like a child's room or even a prison cell. And that's the thing, is during a consultation with the client, I'm not going to come in and accuse them of those things, but I'm going to say, what's happened since you put your bed in the corner? Or what do you think would happen if we moved the bed out of the corner and put you in the power position? Right. So it's simple things like that. And I do not want to discredit the bagua, of course, the different elements. I do all that as well. Sometimes that's not as fun storytelling though, when I'm talking about what I'm doing. Right.
And Brad's going to want to know what a bagua is. He's definitely is a word that went out.
Yes. So it's like a floor plan that we put over the home based on the front door of the home. And there's different corners. So there's a corner in everyone's home for money, for relationships, for your fame and reputation, for your cash flow, for your helpful people. And again, it's all based off of the front door. But I wanted to tell a quick story about, you had mentioned about maybe business, because we gave a lot of examples about relationships, and maybe people are listening saying, I have a relationship. Those don't apply to me. Right.
Yeah.
But I was working with a client who, she was self-employed and she catered almost exclusively to women. And in her financial corner, she had an image of a woman's back. Okay. And it was beautiful. It was an outline, but is clearly the back of a woman. And I said, do you feel like women have been turning their back on you? In the financial corner, right? We have a woman turning away and giving just the back side. And she said, I've loved this painting since I was little. I've had this for years. I said, what if we just do an experiment and take it down for 2 weeks? Put it in your garage, put it somewhere, just take it down. She said, okay, I'll do that. within a couple days, right? She was texting me. She's like, I just sold 3 of my highest level classes. I can't believe this. Right. But we buy artwork because we're attracted to it. Right. Maybe she was going through a divorce and she was like, I feel connected with that solo woman in that image. But as well as us Americans, right, we buy things and we put it in our home and we kind of stay like, you're going to stay there until I move. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, what's actually really funny is, one, I like to clean out the house every beginning of every year. I like to move things around. I'm like, as we're currently sitting here, I redid this table mostly for a photo shoot, but now I'm like, well, I'm going to keep it because this is like all of my crystals are here, these things, right? And we redesigned the living room. I always liked the living room, but it's like, I don't know. I don't know. We put, we moved in, we put everything in there. And this is so funny, for a photo shoot, I was like, well, this living room is not on brand with the photos we have to do. So we had just bought this rug randomly and I just put it in the podcast room because I hate the carpet. And when I come out to get ready for the shoot, they took the carpet that I put in the podcast room and they moved it over the couch. And then we rolled the rug up and put on different rugs from the other rooms. And I was like, oh, well, the living room is staying like this, everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because it feels so spacious. It feels so rich. It feels like warm and like you want to sit in it. And, and so like, I think, my mom's listening to this and she would change the house in the middle of the night and with her Feng Shui and all the things.
Yeah.
And my dad did flip over a couch because the couch moved.
Okay.
He was walking in the dark.
I get it.
But I think it's important to move things around. Am I right? I'm like, we're moving the energy around. So if you're like wanting to change things up in your life, like moving things around in your house can help do that.
Yeah. And that's a very simple example too. Like think of a desk that's been sitting in the carpet for so long and think how hard it is to move it that initial inch because it's really dug its weight, if you will, into the carpet where it leaves those little marks. And so it's even a very, very simple exercise where we might say, take something that's been in your house that's been sitting there for a long time and shift it by 2 inches. Because some people are resistant to change. I love that you're saying, I'm moving my stuff around. I love to move my stuff around too. But some people do not like that. And so if you're listening saying, that sounds great, but I'm not on board for that.
Yeah.
Try just shifting your stuff by a few inches. And while you're doing it, set the intention of unsticking yourself in whatever situation that might be, in your relationship, in a job that you don't like, in a friendship that isn't a 2-way street anymore, whatever it is.
This is so cool. That's right. What a great like little action step you could take. It's just like and have the intention around what you're trying to unstick with that. Correct. Ooh, okay. So I love that. We'll probably come back to this, but I wanted to for people who are with the tarot cards and with the astrology, I'm wondering, are there certain signs, and this is maybe like a dumb question, but like, are there certain signs that like it's easier for them to show up more confidently, to take action, or is every sign capable of doing that? It's just that them recognizing their strengths and powers.
I operate under the idea that your sun sign is not doing you a disservice. However, yes, people like fire signs, for example, right? We would think, oh, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius might show up more confidently. But if you're an Aries sun and you have Venus, the planet of love and beauty and softness, right, sitting on your sun, it's going to take away some of that power. It's going to soften some of that fire even. So I don't think that there is a way to just say, boil it down to those 12 signs.
Right. It's like, because you'll hear things like, oh, there have been more presidents who have an Aquarius sign than anything else. And I'm like, well, that's amazing.
I know.
But it's also kind of hilarious because it's just like, there's so much more than just your sun sign. And also I love that you pointed out that it's not here to do a disservice to you. And I think that's really cool because I often hear, well, it has to be like this because I'm a Virgo or whatever. And
yes, I know people like blame their astrology sign for their behavior. And sometimes it's just funny. And I can totally appreciate the humor for that. But sometimes I think people are serious, that they think that they have to be a certain way because of their sign.
And that's not that they have a control around that. They are something they could do. Yeah.
Especially if you're just basing off of that sun sign.
So what are their, what other parts of the signs should people be paying attention to? Should they all do their birth chart, and like, what would that reveal? And does it, your chart doesn't change over time, right? You would look at it at different times in your life, but it stays the same.
Correct. So there's two different ways in astrology. One, you could have a natal birth chart reading. So we would just look at where the planets were when you were born, and those don't change, right? We can't go back and change what the planets look like in 1985. So that gives insight into lifelong themes. I think people have become a little bit more familiar with their big three. So their sun, their moon, and their rising sign. And that absolutely starts coloring, the picture. But I think having a natal birth chart reading, you understand the degrees, you understand what the degrees mean, you understand the aspects. And again, that can give you insight into those lifelong themes. And sometimes people, we question ourselves. We think, oh, I'm different or I'm weird. And leaning into it and hearing someone validate, no, that's in your chart. That's how you're supposed to be acting. That's how you react to things. That is what you're good at. Those are situations that you will continue and continue and continue to come up against in your life. It's like, oh my God, so much like validity that you're getting from someone.
Yeah. This is so interesting because there's, like you said, sun, rising, and moon. And I think, I lived in LA for 14 years, and I say it as a joke, but actually I've heard other podcasters that I listen to who live in LA. Like, when you come to LA, they just immediately give you a drop of understanding astrology in a very
yes.
the same way, like you just pick up on it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I know the sun and the rising. I did not actually know about the moon. So that's interesting. So you have the natal chart, and then what is the other chart then?
So the other one would be more predictive. So we're basing it off of your natal chart. Where were those planets when you were born? But now we're saying, where are the planets right now as we're speaking, and how do they aspect the planets when you're born?
Oh.
So we might say, oh, Saturn is approaching your sun. That happens for all of us every 7 years or so, not at the exact time, because it's going to depend on where Saturn was and where the sun was when you were born. And then we can talk about linking years. So I can say, okay, you're about to go through this energy, but before we talk about this energy, tell me what was going on in 1993. Right. And I'll have the client go down kind of memory lane. Those are great examples. You're going to be going through that energy again. Now, maybe there's 28 years difference between that time, so it's not going to happen the exact same way, but there's comfortability in knowing I've been here before. I survived it. Nothing horrible happened. Right. And now here we're going through it again.
That is actually really cool stuff, because instead of you thinking like something new is happening to you, you can actually have this confidence, like, oh, I have the data. I survived that.
Right. Exactly.
I'm also much older, and I've experienced it. So I can bring that with me, and you don't have to it doesn't have to feel so foreign or unknown.
Yes, exactly. And there will be energies where I will say this is once in a lifetime energy, or you have never been through this, or, some people will never go through this in their life. I do preface those things, right, to walk through it, but I love to take notes from my clients. So I have great stories of how people have lived it out. Of course, I'm never divulging people's names, right? It's all very confidential, but I'll just say I've seen clients, this has happened to them or that has happened to them. So these are some examples of how you might see it play out in your life.
So here's what's so amazing is that, and this is why I'm glad I said it was a one woo, because it really is. Because in some ways you're like a therapist.
Yeah. Yes.
You're just using a different science than the psychology, or, there's like a couple others out there, but you're using a historical form of like, predictions, like a different word, the word I don't want to use, but like you're looking at things and you're going, okay, here's how other people have done it. Here's how we've done it. We could take this data, and then you, based on here's your strengths and here's what you were born with, can go and navigate it. It's really like supportive. And I think I remember growing up and people like reading oh, my astrology said I'm in like blah, blah, blah this week. It was like something bad.
I know. I read them sometimes and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Okay. So then let's talk about, so you mentioned that there's some things that I could be going through based on when I was born and that time happening. And like, you wouldn't, like the 7 years thing.
Sure.
But then there's the thing that like literally makes the news, and Mercury is in retrograde. Like it makes the news and everyone's afraid of like,
yes,
I know, the fax machine. I can't believe anyone has a fax machine still. The reason it's not working is because it shouldn't be, but like what what is that? And what should people like, how should people approach that? And so it's not like, oh, this is the worst several weeks of my life.
Yes. Okay. It's so funny because all of the planets retrograde.
Right.
Pluto retrogrades, Saturn retrogrades, Jupiter, you name it, they all retrograde. I don't know why Mercury has taken the hit for all the planets retrograding. It's like the redheaded stepchild of the planets or something. I don't know, right? It gets a lot of heat for it. And there's some validity in it for sure, but Mercury retrogrades 2 to 3 times a year. So we are so familiar with that. Think if you take your age times 2 or 3, that's how many times you've dealt with Mercury retrograde in your life. That's
Right.
pretty crazy. I would say something kind of interesting though. If you've seen your birth chart, most of them will make a note of what planets were in retrograde status when you were born. And some people that were born with under a Mercury retrograde, which could be rather common because it retrogrades 2 to 3 times a year. Sometimes clients say they feel more compatible when Mercury is in retrograde status because that's what they were born under.
Oh,
That's what
so
they know.
interesting. Yeah.
That's what was built into their chart.
Oh, that makes so much sense to me because like I remember being in a yoga class and it was after it was like a totally rainy, stormy night the night before. And it's like, how many of you didn't sleep well because of the rain? And I looked around and I was like, oh my God, I like slept like a baby.
Right. Yeah.
Like bring on the storm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And yes, it does I have a funny Mercury story. So my engagement ring, when Brad
Okay.
called my jewelry designer up to say, hey, I want to propose Lesley. She's like, oh, don't worry. Give me 5 weeks. And
Okay.
he goes, okay, like you don't need any. She's like, I already know. I got the size and what she wants. Like, just give me 5 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
So he calls her 5 weeks later and he goes, hey, haven't heard from you. Like, how's everything going? She's like, it's not right. I don't like it. I shouldn't have started during retrograde. I'm going to do another one.
Okay. Yeah.
I saw that one and it's true. It was not the one for me.
Yes. Well, and so there's a positive to Mercury retrograde, right? We want to blame it on everything, but because it's in retrograde, RE, right? I say it really supports doing anything that begins with RE. Rethink, reconsider, redesign, reorganize, relaunch. Like if we can work with the energy, then will be more supportive.
Okay, that's cool.
Right. So I understand with the ring thing, that probably was a setback. Brad could have been kind of disappointed. Well, I had reservations for this time or whatever, based on this 5-week thing. But your jeweler, wow, what is that called? Your
Jeweler.
Your jeweler was probably like, I'm going to redesign it. And I'm hoping that she was more satisfied with the end result.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I know. Me too.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Right. But reworking it, redesigning it. And that's a way to be more compatible with the energy.
Okay. I think that's really cool because I think it is more actionable that way. So instead of going, my friend and I would go for a run. He's like, retrograde starting right now. And I've got this thing going on and And it's like, if I had known that there could be like, oh, during this time, instead of doing these things, I'm going to focus my energy more around this. And that,
Absolutely.
I mean, for those people who listen to the show, they love an action that they can take. And I always say like action is the antidote to fear, right? It brings clarity. And so if you can take action instead of like going, oh, I'll just wait for this to stop messing with my email and my computer. And
yeah. Yeah. Well, especially, when you hear the next retrogrades coming, if you've been thinking about redesigning your website to rework your menus, save it for Mercury retrograde, because that's the time that you should be rethinking.
Okay. Are there any other times in the year that we should be thinking about other stuff? Is there a different retrograde that we're thinking of the wrong way?
Oh my gosh. Well, so because I had mentioned all planets retrograde, oh my gosh, that's such a loaded question. I'm trying to think where I want to go with that. You know what? I might switch it a little bit on you, but I might suggest that we should be watching right now Pluto.
Okay.
Pluto just went direct here August 8th. I'm saying October 8th. So here just a couple, pretty recently. And Pluto also retrogrades every year. Not a lot of people talk about Pluto retrograde, but the reason that it's very significant right now is because since it's moving direct, that means that it's headed straight for the sign of Aquarius. Now, we haven't seen Pluto change signs since 2008. So we'll walk through a little exercise here. Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008. Pluto can be rather disruptive. We're talking very different from Mercury at this point, right?
Okay.
Pluto's the before and after. It's the scene, kind of the guts of the situation. It's power, it's money. And it moved into Capricorn, which rules our structural systems of our society. So our government, our laws, our rules. So we go back to 2008 when Pluto moved into Capricorn. Of course, most people already know what I'm about to say, but right, we saw the recession, we saw the housing crisis, we saw a disruption in a lot of the policies and procedures that we thought were safe or sound, that they'll always be there. This is how it will always be. And now as we're speaking, we're seeing the bookend to Pluto and Capricorn. And I talk to clients about this as well when they go through long cycles. Okay, what happened when this energy moved in this year? Oh, we're in the bookend year. And oh my gosh, people have such aha moments. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? It's like the exact same storyline, right? How are we doing this 30 years later?
Yeah. This is so, okay, that's interesting. So then as it's, we're in the bookend.
Yes.
And it's about to switch signs.
Correct.
Is this going to be a good thing? Like, do we want it to get out of this? or is Aquarius going to like set it all on fire?
I know. I'm excited for it to move into Aquarius. Again, I love Aquarian energy. I have an Aquarius sun, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming you love Aquarius too.
Yes.
Aquarius is for the people, you know, and I do think we are seeing a shift, right? That there, I do think, yes, people are getting more rich. I understand that. I'm not taking that away, but we have platforms now where we can communicate as normal, just everyday working people. We have a larger voice because of platforms, because of TikTok, because of different things where we can get together and kind of rally together or share our insight quicker than we've ever been able to do it before. So I do think that Aquarius will accentuate that, and we will see some of the power being taken away from a lot of the stuff that was created since 2008.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
I think I think there's good sides to that.
I do as well.
And this is like, so here's what's so funny is like, you can use astrology for your own personal stuff. And then you can look at it as like a global energy of what's happening. And doesn't that tie us all so much more together, that like, we're not just like individual people, like running around, not knowing what to do. Like we're all going through this together with our own stuff.
Correct. Yes. That was like, even when the pandemic went off, we had Pluto and Saturn meeting up for the first time in the sign of Capricorn, you know, and astrologers were saying like something big is going to happen in 2020. Like something's big is going to happen when these come together. Well, of course, I was concerned about how it's going to happen on a worldly level, but also I was looking at people's charts. Okay, where is it happening in the person's chart? And, you know, everyone was affected differently by what we've been through the past 2 years. Some people made a lot of money off of it. Some people it hit really hard. Well, because that conjunction that we were all dealing with on a much larger level was also personally affecting each of the birth charts based on where those planets were when you were born. And that's how you can take a very wide conjunction, or like not conjunction, but like a wide theme, and then say, well, how did some people benefit and some people didn't? Some people came out ahead and some people went into depression.
Yeah. So this is interesting because it is true. Like I will look back at like, you know, how Brad and I shifted in the last couple of years. And then you can look at another situation with someone and that was not what happened. And it can be easy to feel a little bit guilty, like, you know, and I'm not saying I don't feel guilty at all, but like, it is interesting to see like some of that stuff is out of everyone's control. Some of that was just like when they say that's how the stars aligned, it's really how the stars aligned.
Truly.
And I think it's, it has to be very interesting for you to be able to see that something is coming, but not have the details of all the things. Just know that like y'all were like, something big is about to happen. And you're kind of just like waiting to see what that thing is. Yeah. How do you wait?
I know. I know. Honestly, that is the hard part, because I mean, I am a human as well, right? Like I have money in the stock market, like all just the normal things, right? That will affect me as well. So yeah, the waiting part is kind of hard for sure.
Yeah.
But like, even like the Pluto moving into Aquarius, like, you know, sometimes when we're in it, it's not as easy to see. and the last time we saw Pluto move into Aquarius was like the US was 1 or 2 years old.
Whoa.
So it's like, I could read history books about what was going on during that time, but we've
Yeah.
had so much technology happen. We've evolved so much that it can't be the exact same storyline, but I'm sure that there will be a lot of similarities between what happened.
But here's what's really interesting, that there's like a common theme where there's something coming up and then you can look back at the history of that thing, whether it is from the stars and the signs moving based on the worldly events. But also you said with our own thing, we can look back and go, okay, what has happened to you in 2008? How is that? So it's going to be similar energy.
Yes.
And when we do those things, it gives us data that shows us signs, and we can have more confidence in moving to those next things. And so I think when I asked you, like, how do you wait? It sounds like, yeah, you wait, but you also are still taking action. You're still living life. And like in being it till we see it, it's not about like waiting until we become the thing. It's like getting the information that we can glean from something.
Yes.
And then taking action with that information.
Yeah. And I will give clients like positive ways of living out the energies, or I'll say, hey, be proactive about it. I'm telling you these things. For example, like there's an energy I talk about where I'm saying you might be overly concerned about fire safety. Now, this is a very weird example. I don't talk about this often, right? But I'm telling a client that, well, I would hope that they would be proactive and say, maybe I should check the smoke alarms in my house. Maybe I should see what the expiration date is on my fire extinguisher. Maybe I'm going to fix the fireplace that hasn't worked in 6 months. Those are so now you've heard this information. Now you can take proactive steps instead of sitting around saying, oh no, is my house going to catch on fire?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I mean, this is also great. Okay. So really quick, because I feel like we didn't even touch, like we didn't even make a crack in the surface of any of these things.
I know.
But for people who are like, okay, what do I need to do? Do I need to go do my natal chart? Do I need a tarot reading? When would really quick, like, how often should you be getting a tarot reading?
Yeah,
Why
absolutely.
would you get that one?
Yeah. So I think every 3 to 6 months is a healthy kind of schedule to be on. I see clients more often than that, and I see clients less often than that. So, but I do think that it is just a tool, just like seeing a therapist, right? At some point, the therapist is going to say, how do you feel about this? Like, what do you think? Like we can't use it as a crutch. So I don't think, every couple weeks, sometimes it can become a little overkill, right? Where I have to say, let's put some responsibility on ourselves as well, not just these tools.
Yeah.
So every 3 to 6 months, I think is healthy. If you've never had an astrology chart, I would start with a natal birth chart reading. And even if you are a little versed already in astrology, like I said, everyone speaks a little bit differently. Everyone has different language that they bring to the table. So, if you're looking to get a 6 to 12 month outlook, okay, what energies do I have coming in the next 6 to 12 months? Then we can work with more of the predictive side of the chart.
That's cool. So if you're getting ready to maybe switch careers and you have a goal of that for happening in the next 6 to 12 months, you could do a more predictive chart so you can kind of balance out the energies and really kind of know what to expect.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's so amazing. With Feng Shui, is that something that is ongoing? Is it something you can this sounds redundant because we've talked about earlier. Do you do it one time and that's it? Or you kind of feng shuiing every once in a while?
Correct. Yeah, I know. Cause I've had people say, oh, I've had a feng shui consult before. Like, okay, that's like saying you've had a haircut before. It is an ongoing process, right? Because we're always changing and our house is always changing, whether we're moving a new animal in or we bought a bunch of new clothes that were on sale and now our closet's packed or something breaks. And so we're not using it. The home's constantly changing. So that's what I love about the consults that I offer, that I teach you things. I don't just say, move this here, do this, do that. I want you to understand why we're doing it. I want to make sure that you relate to what I think the artwork or the position of the furniture is doing or manifesting in your life. And so I leave you with those tools to then take a more discriminative look at your house to say, what is my house saying? And that gets really wild, right? Is where you have a financial breakthrough and then something is happening in your financial corner in your home where a tree branch breaks off of a big tree within 24 hours of you having some sort of, financial breakthrough. it's so weird, right? And I have hundreds of stories about how either the home speaks and then something happens in our life, or something happens in our life and then the home has to react.
But this is so this, I think more people have experienced in something like that without even knowing it, because
Yes.
they'll, like my girlfriend, she texted me, she's this morning, she's like, well, something is going on because I've never done this, but I spilt coffee all over my desk. And in trying to clean it up, I fell down the stairs. And like,
Oh my gosh.
and she's
Yeah.
okay. She's fine. She's like,
Okay.
I feel like I had some sort of karmic breakthrough. Something just happened. But like, I think it's very fascinating because we could, a tree could fall and you go, that's really sad for them. But then if it was in their financial corner and they had a windfall of some kind, like, was it that
Exactly.
bad?
Exactly. Yes. The home speaks to us. And so
Mm,
understanding the Bagua, or even just taking a more, again, like look at your life. Okay, what kind of breakthrough did I have? Especially if there's something that broke in the house, or you bring something nicer into the home. Okay, and now I have a change in my life.
mhm.
It's all related.
Yeah. All right, Kate. So where do you hang out? Where do people find you? How can they work with you?
Absolutely. So I have a website, which is www.thekatewind.com. And then I'm also on Instagram at _Kate Wind.
Mhm.
And then I also run a podcast with my mom called Mom and Me Astrology.
Okay, that's gonna be so fun. Do you guys
Right.
just talk about what's happening in the world's charts at that time?
Yeah. So we had launched a weekly podcast, and like right now we're talking about the eclipse seasons, but back during the election, we were looking at potential presidents' charts. We absolutely talk about, what's going on in the world. So we talk about news headlines. Okay, where does this news headline fall into the astrology piece? Again, it's just a great tool if anyone's trying to learn more about astrology, like how does it all connect? But then, of course, many of the episodes we run through all 12 of the signs. Okay, Mercury's retrograde. How does it affect all the 12 signs? Mars retrograde. How's it affecting all 12 of the signs?
Okay, well, you're going on my downloads right now.
Okay.
And everyone, I just have to say, like, when I was talking with Kate, one of the first time we met, this is something that she and her mom, you did mention this, like you guys look at different states or countries and their charts, and it
Yes.
explains a lot about the energy that's happening over there. And I think that's really cool information to have.
Mhm.
So as people interact with those things, they can be armed with that information. So check out our podcast. Okay, before I let you go,
Yes.
feed action items. So how can, like, bold, executable, intrinsic targeted steps people can take to be it till they see it? How would that work with what you've got for us?
Absolutely. I would say take a look at your home and what is your home saying? I want you to look at the artwork, the pictures that are on your wall. Are they current? Are they updated? Are they sad? Are they scary? I want what is on your walls to look abundant. I don't want them to be little dead, frail trees. If you have an orchid plant that someone gave you for your birthday 2 years ago and it doesn't have any more flowers on it, like, I'm giving you permission to throw it away. Anything that's broken in your home, get rid of that energy, because it is all reflective and it all takes a toll on our physical lives. So
Mm,
remove the dead energy. Um, if you're listening, you're thinking, I don't have any dead energy in my house. I want you to do this. I want you to go around your house. I want you to take note of where you cuss. What area of your home brings you so much frustration that you're spilling those 4-letter words? Okay. So maybe that's a rug that you always trip over the corner because it's not taped down. Maybe it's a drawer that you can't open because you have 6 spatulas in there. Why do we need 6 spatulas, right? I want you to take notes of those places, and that's where I want you to start, because those are creating hiccups in your space that then change your energy, right? So you just trip over the rug, and now your husband walks into the room. Who are you shaking that out on, right? Now you're in a crappy mood, and husband
mhm,
tries to tell you something, right? And you're spouting off attitude or something. So
mm.
I discover where you cuss in your home and
That's such
address
a
that,
great
right?
action step, because it is true. I love that you thought about people like, okay, maybe you don't have any dead plants. You're really good at getting rid of those things. Well,
Yep.
then where are you cussing? And
Yes.
Claire, I know you're listening. She's been tripping a lot lately. I
Oh,
think
no.
you might want to see where that is happening in your apartment.
Yes. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Oh my, yeah. It's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you for that. I think this is very timely because I always do it on New Year's. I always go through all the drawers and all the clothes and all the shoes because I'm like, I don't want to take this stuff into the next year with me. So
Yes, I love that.
y'all, how are you going to use these tips in your life? You want to tag _Kate Wynn, the Be It Pod. Let us know. Share with a friend if you're intrigued, if we've piqued your interest, if you're feeling like seen, that you are who you are based on like all these important things of the planet, then make sure you contact her and let us know how this affected you. We want to hear about it. And until next time, be it till you see it.
That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Be It Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day.
Be It Till You See It is a production of As the Crows Fly Media.
It's written, produced, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Kroll. Our associate producer is Amanda Frattarelli.
Kevin Perez at Disenyo handles all of our audio editing.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to our designer Jaira Mandal for creating all of our visuals, which you can't see because this is a podcast, and our digital producer Jay Perdoso for editing all the video each week so you can.
And to Angelina Herrico for transcribing each of our episodes so you can find them on our website. And finally, to Meredith Crowell for keeping us all on point and on time.